I just want to say, you guys are doing a great thing. It's such an uncomfortable topic to talk about, especially for a guy, young guys in their early 20s. And, I'm glad that, I could tune in and, listen to you guys.
Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Hey, guys, welcome to the broadcast. Thank you so much for waiting, wherever you're waiting to listen or to watch the show. I announced it on Instagram and in my private chat. I have no idea if anyone from there is coming over to watch it. I know there are people who are wondering why I don't simulcast the broadcast on Joe's channel and on my Instagram. Well, because when I try to do that, essentially because Joe and I are side by side, all I see is an extended, like a big line in the center and like half our faces. And I haven't been able to work out the dual streaming and change the aspect ratios through my software yet. Now I could either stream on Instagram, and I have something set up in a portrait mode, so it's a different setting for my software, or on Joe's YouTube channel, or if I wanted to stream on whatever, Vimeo or whatever, for the private stuff that we do with the doctors. But for some reason, I can't, I got to figure it out. I need to contact somebody who understands this a little bit more than myself and maybe some of the people I've been working with so that we can make this happen, because I know people on my Instagram would watch this show and they'll become more familiar with Joseph. And I think that would be pretty cool.
I think it would be too. And I had that question on my YouTube channel as well. When's on my YouTube channel as well.
Jesus, Joe, see?
Okay. That's why, because Spencer can't get it right just on YouTube, much less on YouTube and Instagram.
It's so unbelievable. Guys, the phone number, 888-659-3727. We are live here in Los Angeles, or I'm in Los Angeles. Joe Tillman is in Vancouver, British Columbia. I was telling Joe this right before the broadcast. I was going through my computer and emptying some stuff out, and I just found some content from the old studio. I'm talking about, maybe 10 years ago. It's wild. First of all, the fact that we're still doing this. And it's just it's nonstop. We're never going away. It doesn't matter if we have 22 people in the room or 150,000 people watching on, whatever those sites were that used to watch the show or the radio. We're still here. And I got to tell you,
we don't go away.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, the only difference with me is I either get fatter, slimmer, more tan, or less tan. That's it. Everything else stays the same,
including the shirts. Well, with both of us, you started to wear the exact same shirt not too long ago, maybe about 4 years ago or something, because I think it was just frustrating. Yeah. After a while, you're just like, you can't keep changing. If I were to have a different shirt on for every program, hold on. You'd have to start doing laundry.
I'd have to start and get an iron.
Fuck. Not an iron. Jesus. No, that's exactly it. And I actually, every time I'm out, when I'm forced to go clothes shopping, I actually look for some black shirts, and I keep, I don't wear this anywhere else. Yeah. I pull it out once a week. I've got a few of these, and I only wear them for the show.
Well, I think
I have some other black ones I'll wear out.
Look, it makes sense. It's kind of like a uniform. And, but I had people, I was looking at some stuff on Facebook and old stuff, recently. Just reassessing my entire life, by the way. And, there's this post that was made. I think it was in 2013, where I was comparing myself. It was this whole trend where people were comparing stuff from 20 years ago or 10 years ago, whatever. So anyway, it was me at WOR Studios or WNEW Studios, I forget, in New York in 1998. And then me in my home studio in 2013. And everybody's saying, which is great, you basically haven't changed a bit. And this one guy goes, and you haven't changed your shirt either.
He wasn't joking either.
He wasn't joking.
He wasn't joking.
Guys,
There's malice in those words.
Phone number 888-659-3727. We are live. We're here to take your calls and answer your questions about anything and everything hair loss. Doing the hair loss show for a very long time. And some of you wonder, and you even write me through Instagram now that I'm putting a little effort into it, like, why isn't the show, like, out there everywhere? Why don't you put it on Spotify and iTunes and all that stuff? You know, I threw a couple of episodes up over the years, but it was always a real pain in my ass, to be honest with you. And it just wasn't my thing. I love doing the broadcast. For those who want to kind of watch it and listen and call in, and guys, we'll take your calls in a second. It's great. We created a great little community here. We help a lot of people. Even if it's 2,000 or 3,000 people a week who end up watching the broadcast, it's great. These are real lives that are being helped. Now I'm realizing even more why I wasn't so motivated after I got off the radio to put my content out there on a regular basis. It's because of Instagram. It's reminding me of the nonsense that you have to deal with when you put yourself out there on the regular. Not just live. Live stream is great. People watch it. You know, you're live. It's kind of like the radio. You turn that off, and that's it. And that's what I like doing this. And I know that you keep the podcast or you keep the broadcast on your YouTube. But yeah, there are people that pick it apart, or people who may make fun of callers, which I think is ridiculous and sad and unfortunate.
Yeah, I agree.
But brother, what I'm dealing with on Instagram is, I mean, I would say 95% of it is great. It's very positive stuff.
Yeah.
But it's like these people just don't want to believe the truth. They don't want to believe the truth. And if they don't believe the truth, or if they made a mistake, then they try to point out whatever flaws they see in me, whether it's the comb over, or my hairline is too high, or I'm wearing a wig, or one guy, and then a guy agreed, talked about my grill. I mean, it's unbelievable. You're too young. You're too old. You know, I had this guy not too long ago, it was probably about a month ago, that didn't do any research on me and said that, how can I have been in the industry for 30 years? You're lying. You know?
That's good. That's good.
And I'm like, that I could take that as a compliment, I guess, or I don't know. He didn't mention my age, so he doesn't, you know, but I'm just like, why would I say that if I wasn't in this prison for 30 years? Who would admit to this?
Yeah.
You know?
I'm not anxious to admit this.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been the hair loss guy for 30 years. I mean, it's not the sexiest position to be in.
It certainly sparks conversation, though, at the bar.
Well, it's a little different now because everyone's talking. First thing is like, they point, Turkey? I'm like, what the?
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. No, I didn't go to Turkey.
Yep.
Hair club? Still with the hair club.
Still with the hair club.
But at least they think it's growing out of my head initially. So that's good.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But they don't
The little
understand.
wins.
They don't understand what I do, how I do it. But back in the day, and guys, hold on, I'll take your call in a second. It was ridiculous to explain. There's only one guy out there that put himself out there to talk about this devastating disease of the spirit, how it effed him up. He wrote a book on it, and then he went on the radio and exposed his innermost feelings about how hair loss effed him up.
He wrote a book and exposed himself.
Yes.
You heard it here first, folks.
But that wasn't, when I think about it, you know, I didn't realize, it was uncomfortable because I knew my friends and my family and everybody would be listening to me, and they, you know, and they would know my innermost feelings about something that everyone jokes about, and this is back in the late 90s. But the way the press picked it up initially, which it's kind of different now, it was almost like a joke. Like, this guy is so mentally ill that he somehow carved a mentally ill niche for himself to become successful on the radio because of his mental illness, talking about hair loss.
Yeah.
Wasn't even taken seriously. Now things have changed. But on the flip side, now you see what the media is covering. It's even scarier what's going on. The stuff about finasteride. They're not going to cover a story if there's a million guys who sign a petition say that finasteride saved their lives. They're not going to cover that story because it's not bad news.
It's not sensationalist.
Yeah, and we'll talk about it in a second. I don't want you guys to hang up. I want to take your calls, and I don't mean to keep you on hold for this long. So it's 888-659-3727. But I got a lot to say about that and what's been going on with this whole movement and the scare and the concern about the drug being dropped or no longer being made available in Europe.
I've had a lot of links sent to me about that stuff.
Yeah, which is, look, I'm not a betting man, but if I was, that's not what's going to happen. But we'll talk about that. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this? And where are you calling from? What's with their fingers crossed, Joe? You know it's not going to happen. Hey, caller.
I don't know.
Hey guys. Good afternoon. This is John calling from California.
John from California.
What's up, John?
What's going on?
Not much. How are you guys doing today?
Pretty good. Doing a little show here.
Tired, a little drained. Didn't sleep very well last night. Lower back's
no.
kind of hurting a little bit. Ankles are good though.
Uh-oh.
He asked.
Thanks for asking.
Gotta focus
How
on
are
the
you?
positive. Good. Not
Yeah,
too
exactly.
bad. I just want to start off by saying, since I follow your Instagram and I see some of those comments on your posts, and yeah, I can see how it can be frustrating at times. There's some of the comments are just straight up disrespectful. And you see guys left and right posting, well, why don't you list this? Why don't you give us the solutions? Why don't you tell us where to go? Why don't you go to Turkey? And it's just like, how do you explain to some of these people that it's just not as simple as telling you go use some rosemary oil or a derma roller and you're fixed, or just get on the first flight to Turkey and just jump into whatever hair mill you see and you'll be fine after.
Yeah, well, I wish that were the case, but that's what they're used to. So that's how Instagram or all social media works. TikTok. It's the top 3 solutions. What I would do as a dermatologist to treat my hair loss. All the happy horse shit without a real nuanced explanation of the reality of all this horse shit. And when I see these well-known influencers and board-certified dermatologists, especially when they get on camera and the first thing they say is, I'm a board-certified dermatologist, and these are the 3 most important hair loss hacks. And they always lead with being a board-certified dermatologist. And no disrespect to the field of dermatology and being a board-certified dermatologist and the fact that, these people diagnose cancers every day and save people's lives, which I think is incredibly valuable, obviously. But in general, they don't know shit when it comes to hair or hair loss. They're not taught this in general in medical school at all. Even in their residency, they barely get any information on it. Most of these people have no clue about the reality of hair transplant surgery, let alone the effective treatment and the nuanced treatment of both men and women dealing with hair loss. They throw the same shit out there for everybody. So, and especially these TikTok talks, I don't know. I get frustrated, but I thank you for acknowledging my feelings and for understanding. And, and here's the thing. You only read some of them because I essentially have to, unless someone is following me, their shit doesn't come through. I decided because it's just too crazy. The amount of comments are insane. And also the negativity. I just don't think it's great for people who are really trying to get help to read all that stuff.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I just wanted to start off with that because, for both of you guys, that's a tough job to put yourself out there and be on these social media platforms because everyone's behind a keyboard and a monitor and they say whatever they want and they're as rude as they can be. So it's not an easy job.
What's wild is it's not even our job. We do this just because we want to. We're not paid for this. No one's requiring this of us. It's just we like getting on live and BSing with you guys, and Yeah, no appreciation. I mean, there's some appreciation, which is fantastic.
And the reality is, my hair looks great. So go fuck yourselves. Anyway, listen, brother, I appreciate it. So what can we do for you today?
Exactly.
Yeah, I just wanted to start off with that. I had a couple questions. I first wanted to provide an update. I called probably about a month ago, and I was telling you guys how I deal with an inflammatory scalp condition. It's like maybe it's like a mix of seborrheic dermatitis and psoriasis.
Okay.
And I think one of the recommendations that you had given, Spencer, was to try fasting, which I did. And surprisingly, I did some water fast. And it really did help with bringing down some of that inflammation. I don't know exactly
it's not surprising
what it is, and I read up about it, and yeah, I'm definitely going to utilize that. Have that in my back pocket moving forward. So thank you, I appreciate that.
I'm really glad that it helped, and I think if you actually get to the point where you're able to do things consistently, and eventually eliminate as you go back and refeed yourself, you may be able to eliminate some of the foods that are causing some of the excess inflammation that you don't even realize are causing it.
Yeah. So I just did like pretty much a 16-hour fast or so, just drinking water, maybe tea too.
16 hours?
And then after, then I did
Dude, that's on, first of all, you could do that standing on your head, but the fact that you had a result
does that even qualify?
The fact that you had a result after 16 hours, that really underscores how much you can do for yourself if you really put the effort into it.
So I did that for a few days, 16 hours for a few days.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
But still, that's basic intermittent fasting for a few days. That's great.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess my question is, how do you approach the fasting, or how do you guys approach the fasting?
Well, I used to do intermittent fasting. And
I quit cold turkey.
Yeah, I would
3 days straight.
Yeah, I would average 16 hours, probably. Have 8-hour feeding window. I did that for about a year, and I definitely felt better. I had lost a lot of weight. This is probably, when I first started, was probably right before the pandemic, or something like that. So I kind of lived that way for a while. But now what I do is I do kind of like a minimum of 36 hours straight. And I'll do that like once a month. And I've gone as long as, it's 39 hours. I've gone as long as about 48 hours or 49 hours, something like that.
Wow.
And
okay.
It kind of like resets my body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I should increase the length the next time I do it. I guess that you're right. I approached it like intermittent fasting. I did it for 3-4 days.
Yeah, but that's great. I think that's a great experiment. You already saw a difference in 3 or 4 days of intermittent fasting. I mean, if you lived your life like that, that may actually benefit you for the long term.
And that's quick to see a positive response after doing this for such a short amount of time. You know, what's interesting, at least for me anyway, is for many years I didn't realize it, but I was intermittent fasting every day as it was just my lifestyle, because my wife and I, we don't typically eat breakfast, and she was usually leaving to go to work before noon, and we wouldn't even eat lunch. She would eat lunch at work, and I wouldn't eat until dinner. And that was just the way it was for many years. And I actually think that my body almost kind of got used to that routine, where after I initially lost like 25 pounds. This is about 12, 13 years ago. And I kept it off for the most part. So now, and I don't know if there's any research on this or anyone talks about this. I've not even looked. But when I think about it, I don't get any real benefit that I'm aware of from that type of routine now. So when I started doing this multi-day fasting, the first time I did it, I didn't really, I noticed a difference, but it didn't hit me like I thought it would. And then the second time I did it, it hit me harder. Like I noticed a more immediate impact. And so I'm trying to do what Spencer's doing now, where once a month I'll do a 3 or even 4 day fast, 36 or 48 hours. But it's difficult when your wife cooks and she's really good at it. That's my challenge right now. In all seriousness, it really is, because her work schedule's changed. She doesn't even leave till like 3:00 in the afternoon now. So she's at home cooking lunch now, and it's tough. Like if I want to be on one of these fasts, it's almost impossible, because she's like, okay, well, I'm still cooking for myself. It's like, oh God, I know what that means. There's enough for me, and it's really good. So
and you smell it.
That's my challenge right now.
You smell it.
Yeah,
And you see it. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that is.
But
tough.
I am a believer. I am a believer in fasting. I really am, because I have seen what I feel are health benefits from the 2 times I've done it, at least 36 hours. So I'm gonna try to get back into that. I'm trying to maintain once a month, if I can do that, and have some more long-term observations about how it's affected me. I'm going to give that a shot.
Yeah.
So. Wish me luck.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna try. Good luck. I think I'm gonna try the multiple day fast as well. Do you guys just drink coffee and water during those fasts?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even drink coffee. I'll have like some, caffeine capsules. But, the thing is, even the caffeine, it depends, I mean, if you're doing pure water fasting and you're not putting any type of food into your body, then you can have the caffeine. So a little bit of caffeine is fine. But I would suggest, and again, we're not doctors. You should talk to your doctor about it, or read about it, or speak to somebody. I have to say, talk to your doctor about it. But start with 24 hours. Give yourself reasonable goals, because that may be all you need for your particular situation, and then you could extend that if you want. But there's no doubt. I mean, your body, your inflammation will go down rapidly after. I mean, in your case, it was 16 hours for a couple of days. I mean, that's pretty significant. Yeah. Now, what were you feeding yourself with? Were you eating anything different?
Oh, I tried to stay. I mean, I try to get I go to the gym pretty frequently. I stick to like a higher protein diet. So I try to stay relatively clean, normal diet, chicken, eggs,
now,
beef jerky,
when you're eating that way normally without fasting, you have the seborrheic dermatitis?
I do. I feel like it's influenced probably by diet, but other contributing factors as well. Like if I have a bad couple nights worth of sleep, or if I'm stressed at work, it definitely causes a flare-up for me.
But as someone who goes to the gym all the time, and I'm just trying to kind of break this down for you so you can get an answer. So would you say most of the time you're eating clean?
I'd say about 80%.
So do you notice even during that time you're still dealing with flare-ups, or it's consistent?
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay. I mean, it could be sleep, it could be stress, and just by eliminating your body's need to digest food for 16, 20 hours, that could really possibly bring your inflammation down, and you've already seen that. So, yeah, I mean, it may really, being able to, I mean, it's hard to, like, if you're trying to build muscle and all that stuff, sometimes it's hard. It's hard to fast, like 24 hours, 36 or 30, it would be 39 hours, right? 36 to 39 hours once a week, that's kind of tough, but people do it. It could be life-changing, for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to continue. I'll report back with you to you guys, but I'm gonna play around with it and see.
I can tell you one thing. I know for sure for me that it must be affecting my hormones in some degree, because when I'm more consistent, I notice, and I barely lift weights. I basically do mostly like chin-ups and like intense amount of chin-ups and push-ups and like lunges and step-ups, and I have dumbbells, and I will go down to the gym, whatever, but I don't really like push around a lot of weight. But just from the body weight stuff, I just noticed, and even at my age, if I'm really strict and I fast, I just seem like I'm building muscle. Like I look more full, and I shouldn't be, because I'm not eating a lot of carbs,
Interesting.
So I don't know.
Yeah, I've heard it can affect growth hormone levels as well.
Yes.
Positively.
Yeah. So I'm glad. Yeah. I'm really glad to hear that, man. Anything else?
Okay. One more question. I know you guys' outlook in terms of name brand ProScar, and I've been using name brand ProScar for many, many years, and I've stuck to it through listening to you guys. But I also use Rogaine foam topically, and I've been doing so for like 10, 15 years. I just noticed during my last trip to Costco, they sell like a 6-month pack for very cheap. It's like 40 or $50, which is like half or a third of the price of regular Rogaine foam. I'm wondering what you guys' outlook is on like topical medications like that. Are generics like the Kirkland brand that they sell through Costco okay?
I mean,
Or
look,
should I just stick to...
they work, and they can be completely legit. You don't know where they're sourcing their minoxidil from, but to me, if you've been on something for so long with success, you don't want to F with it. Save your money for someplace else, because if you switch and you go through an effluvium, you're going to be pissed. It's going to cause you a lot of stress.
Yeah, for sure. So the money I save through fasting 36 hours, I'll just put it towards my Rogaine foam.
Absolutely. That money or whatever, don't drink. Don't drink once a week or whatever.
Okay.
All right.
Well, and my last question, because I know there's probably some callers waiting. I use Nizoral, Nizoral shampoo. I know it has some preferred benefits. Is there any other shampoos out there that have benefits?
We're really not even that sure about the over-the-counter 1% ketoconazole shampoos like the Nizoral shampoo. I mean, you live here in the States, so you can't get to 2% over-the-counter. There is some thought that it can be beneficial, and obviously you don't want to use it every day. But it's really the 2% ketoconazole shampoos that have shown the most promise when it comes to, blocking DHT in the scalp. So I can't really say, when people tell me they're on Nizoral, I'm like, we don't really have the stats on Nizoral. We only have the stats on 2% prescribed ketoconazole, which Nizoral makes, but it's not over the counter in the U.S.
It is in Canada, oddly, which is cool. I didn't get some, by the way.
So my thought is, if you think you're doing well with it, don't change anything. As long as you're not shedding and you've been maintaining your hair, why mess with it?
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you guys so much.
Okay,
I
brother.
appreciate it.
Good luck.
Right.
Congratulations.
Bye-bye.
I'm really glad that the fasting helped.
Yes, thank you.
All right, you got it.
Thanks for calling.
Bye-bye.
They would have called me crazy back in the day too, just like with saw palmetto.
Well, they call you crazy now anyway.
Everyone's selling it. Every doctor that said it didn't work is selling Nutrafol of all of them.
Yeah.
I guess it's because it has the biggest markup for these docs and a lot of advertising. But that would not be the brand that I would choose. If you're asking which brand I would choose, go to the American Hair Loss Association. Check out our trusted brands. Right now, it's Advanced Trichology. They're the only guys that have really made the grade. But Jesus, man. When I think about, and guys, hold on, 888-659-3727. The total reversal of what's happening now in the media about something that was talked about a lot 4 years ago, and medications and therapies that were poo-pooed for curing certain diseases a few years ago. And now everyone's like, yeah, you know what? That shit works. And the stuff that we were talking about probably didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And it's possible that it's harming people.
Funny how that works.
It's amazing to me. It's amazing. It's been like this in my career. I was able to see it in our little sphere forever. And that includes all the stuff that's going on with finasteride and the press picking up all this stuff now. It's amazing to me that the average consumer cannot, especially now, given the information you have about the media and how they report on medical issues.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that you can come to me, especially guys who've been on this drug for decades, saying, what do you think about this? Should I be worried? It's fucking amazing. And I'm being a little cryptic because I want Joe to be able to monetize this show. But,
Thank you. That's very considerate.
But it's the whole thing's just sickening. Let's see who this is. You're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from? Hey, caller.
Hello.
Hi.
Yes.
Hi, this is Drew from Ohio.
Hey, Drew from Ohio. What's
up,
happening?
Drew?
Hi, how are you guys doing?
Pretty good.
Pretty
Not
darn
doing
good.
too
How
bad.
about you?
Just trying to weather the storms here.
Oh, you're dealing with tornadoes?
Yeah, we're kind of in that alley over there, so it's we're getting the bleed off of it a bit.
Okay. Well, good luck with that, man. It's scary.
Yeah. I just thought I'd call you guys. Just found you recently on YouTube. Kind of been watching the last 2 weeks here. Just had a couple questions.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, the first question, and actually not a question, but I wanted to add to that Nizoral. I wasn't taking anything for 2 years, medication-wise, and the only thing that I was willing to try at the time was something topical. So I tried the Nizoral for 2 years, buzzed my head, let everything go, used it adamantly, and then during COVID, we couldn't get haircuts. So I kind of saw the hair growth back, and I was like, maybe I do have some, despite what I thought I was losing. And I will say, I'm a pretty firm believer that Nizoral was responsible for
That's
me
great.
keeping it at that time.
No, that's good to hear. Listen, it does have the active ingredient ketoconazole. It's just a lower percentage than what's prescribed by physicians who are trying to help people treat their hair loss. So there's really no data. So that's good to hear.
Yeah. As far as medications go, been on Detasteride now for, I'd say it's been probably a total of a little over 30 months.
That's interesting. By the way,
and
I just want to say, so you're like, you wouldn't do anything internally. So you started with Nizoral, and now you're on Dutasteride. It's a very interesting arc. I want to hear about that.
Oh, okay, sure. I'll be completely honest with it. I was, doing a lot of searching and trying to educate myself on what you could do about things. And there's a lot of things on YouTube, like news stories locally that like, oh, this completely trashed my sex life. And, I'm not able to, come back from that. I want to sue and all this stuff. And, it caused a lot of confusion. And there's no place medically, even like in the dermatology field, where they make you feel comfortable about that situation. Like, or even pass you off to something like what you guys are doing. And
well, I mean, there's a few places, and there's physicians who are prescribing these medications every day to thousands of patients a year. But they're usually involved in surgery and the hair loss specialist. But the average dermatologist, they're just like, they don't want to be bothered with someone coming in and claiming they have side effects. So they basically say, yeah, you know what, you really don't want to screw with that right now, or they don't really have the answers for you either. So I understand that frustration. Go ahead. Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good. I actually checked out Kevin's channel on Haircast, and I don't think if it had been for him, I don't think I would have had the confidence to realize that if you really want to do something about it, you got to kind of commit to it and do it. And I don't know, it just seemed like if you were going to let it go and take your chances, it didn't make a lot of sense if you were going to put all this effort into it and try to get a transplant.
Then
maintain that.
It's kind of interesting because I don't pay enough attention. I recently commented on his April Fool's thing because someone sent it to me. But when I have watched him, he has a unique style. It's very, I could see why younger guys are, gravitate towards him. And he does, he's a huge proponent for these medications because they've helped him so much in his life. And he has a lot of courage because you don't see a lot of guys really advocating as hard as he does for these medications.
Right.
So I admire that. And I should actually pay more attention. Kevin, if you're watching this, don't take it personally, brother. I've just been doing this for so long. I can't watch everybody on a regular basis. But I've heard a lot of good things. And a lot of people have had their fears allayed by watching his content.
Yep.
Yeah. Everything he said, I think, was kind of correct, and I think it's a big reason why I have, still currently have hair. I guess my question, and I didn't want to take too much of you guys' time.
Take your time.
They always talk about before getting a transplant, stabilizing, thinning, and things like that. Now, I am on the dutasteride 1 milligram as well as oral minoxidil.
Okay.
I'm seeing a specialist for hair in Cleveland, Wilma Bragford,
Okay.
and she's bumped me up from the 2.5 milligrams to 5 milligrams. At this point, the hair looks somewhat stable, but it seems like maybe I had lost some density. And I'm always concerned that while taking these medications, you're always going to have somewhat of a shed because you're messing with the cycles.
Well, that does happen, but doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be consistent.
No.
So every time if you're upping your dosage, that can put you through an effluvium that you don't even realize, especially if you have short hair. So your density can kind of go up and down until it kind of gets to a point where it's settled. And so I mean, I think what you're doing is smart. And do you know what your Norwood classification is, or is it just kind of like an overall thinning?
So I do have some recession, and then I have thinning, like a little bit in the crown area, and then the center.
How old are you?
At the top. I'm in 38.
Okay.
Okay.
So what do you want to know about the
probably
transplant?
somewhere between a 3 and a 4.
Okay. All right. Now, so you would you say that you have enough hair to provide yourself with a hairstyle, or you said you clipped it down very short?
Oh yeah. Actually, after the COVID situation, where we couldn't cut our hair, and I saw that I had hair, I said, well, maybe I'll, clip it a different style, and I'm able to actually do something with it. Like
okay.
I've been to a couple of restoration places and in reputable places, but none of them seem to be explaining to me the technique that they would do an approach to do something, to make progress happen with it. They all kind of just say, well, it probably wouldn't be noticeable. And I know that you don't want it to be like stand out that you have a hair transplant, but you want it to at least, make it worth your while. It's not cheap, right?
Right.
Well, so explain explain to me. So when you went to have these consultations, what did they tell you?
So mostly what they want to do with most of these consultations I've been in, they just want to.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sure there's some of that. But they want to basically just fix the recession, and they don't really state whether the FUT in my situation would be better for me or the FUE. They kind of just lean towards FUT, I think, because of it's keen to what they know.
Okay, where are you seeing these doctors in Ohio?
Who is this?
Did you say you're in Ohio?
I saw. Yeah. So I saw Dr. Haber.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
In Cleveland, he thought maybe combination approach would be good, maybe like an FUT, and then maybe top it up with some FUE down the road if there was some fill-in that we needed to do. But he kind of was leaning me towards the FUT, and some of the things that I saw online, I didn't like the results of. So, and I didn't feel 100% comfortable there, if I'm being honest. I don't know if it was just because it was my first consultation or what I saw. But I also talked to Jim Harris.
Harris,
is
yeah.
people.
Yeah.
I didn't talk to him personally, maybe through a few emails, but some guy that used to work in sports now tries to assess you over the phone to do chair transplants. And he was talking about shock loss if they try to do something in the center, and I just still didn't feel like I had enough
brother.
information.
So I mean, I like Jim, but he's now working with a big company as their main medical. I don't know what his title is, but you're dealing with salesmen, you're dealing with people who think they know a lot about hair transplant surgery, but they don't really know a lot about hair transplant surgery. So it's very difficult to really be guided properly. Now, there was a time when, that wasn't the case with Jim, but, Jim's been around for a long time. This is the direction he decided to go in. It's good for the company, I think, to have him. I think he's a medical director, to have him as a name as the medical director. But, you're dealing with a heavy sales force.
Right. And I don't want to go to a place where I feel that it's mostly just going to be, technicians on their own. And I know that does happen. I'm okay with technicians, but I guess I want a little bit of guidance in these consultations of what their technique and what their approach is going to be. And, can we assess the thinning in the middle? Because I think I'm more concerned about that than I am the recession. I think I can live with that. I think it's kind of a masculine look, and I'm fine with that. But the thinning, I would like to try to do something about. And I know Joe was talking last time, maybe a couple episodes back, where they can't just go in and do certain parts that aren't completely lost because you might cause a shock there.
No, well, it depends. I mean, I'm not of the position where if there's any existing hair there that you shouldn't go in. It just depends on the experience of the doctor and their approach. What I don't like to see is doctors going into areas of significant growth of native hair, and what I quantify as significant is enough hair to style to where it adds to the overall aesthetic. Diffuse thinners still have significant amounts of hair. It's just the hair is miniaturized, not necessarily fallen out. And so you can see through the scalp easier, but there's plenty of hair to, there's varying levels of diffuseness, but you can still style that hair for an aesthetic benefit. And so when you go to some clinics and oh, you don't need to worry about shaving your head. We want you to look normal within just a few days. And the long hair FUE or the long hair procedure, even if it's an FUT, will allow you to do that. No. You're risking exactly what it is that you're talking about, shock loss, not just of the temporary persuasion, but the permanent persuasion, because that's why better clinics are shaving recipient scalps. And just a little side rant here, it blows my mind that doctors will offer this as an alternative just to appease the short-term concerns that patients have about their immediate post-op appearance. I've been telling patients this for 25 years. Suck it the fuck up. This is a lifelong procedure, a lifelong result that if it's not done right the first time, you're the one that has to live with the consequences, not the doctor. So if you want the end result that you're hoping for, you got to sacrifice a little bit in the short term to gain in the long term. Shave your damn head, pass it off as just changing things up, and in 6 months, no one remembers you shaving your head 6 months ago to begin with. I have yet to have someone come to me saying, "Yeah, man, I had so many people make fun of me." Not once has anyone come back to me and said that once they decided to shave their head for their surgery. So back to the original point, I don't like this idea of long hair FUE and not shaving the recipient area if there's enough hair to create an aesthetic benefit. There are cases where it is thin enough to where it just doesn't matter, but of course at that point it just doesn't matter, because if there's enough room to go in safely with the hair not being shaved, then that hair is meaningless to begin with. It doesn't have any sort of real aesthetic benefit. In fact, it's you could almost look at it as being a case of an anti-benefit because it looks like a bad comb over.
I have a question. Was that the original point? Wasn't he just asking if he could have hair placed into his diffuse thinning area?
Yeah.
And you had mentioned that on a previous show that you can't, and it's possible you're going to get shock loss.
And I just completely enveloped that question into the most comprehensive answer he could have ever hoped for, and he's about to thank me for it. Right?
Yes, thank you.
There you go. See?
Well, here's the thing with any
You're very
surgery,
welcome.
anytime they go into a hair bearing area, whether they shave the hair or not, you can go through some degree of shock loss. If you shave your head, you don't see the shock loss, and I think that's what Joe is getting at. If I can understand.
If you could maybe recommend a place that would explain into detail too about what angles they're going to be using to try to make the best out of what I have and things like that. Are you aware of places that would be the best to work with? I'm not concerned about cost.
Here's the thing. When you sat down, and I hate even saying this because I got to tell you, this guy is such a politician and has said such negative things about what we do, what we stand for, but he's a good surgeon, and you've already seen him. So I got to give him the benefit of the doubt and give you the opportunity to see somebody good that's close to you, and that's Bob Haber. I don't like saying the name, but he's good at what he does, and he's been doing it for a very long time. Now I can understand that you probably didn't get the explanation you want. Bob, in my opinion, has a very unique air about him that sometimes is not palatable. I don't know how you felt about the consultation, but he is good at what he does, but he's also from he's from back in the day. He's an old school guy. And part of that I appreciate is he understands the value and the nuance of a good strip surgery and the importance of it, especially if the patient is eventually going to progress significantly. Now, you're already 38 years old. You say that you're pretty stabilized with your medication. No one has a crystal ball. So, I don't think the hybrid approach is a bad approach. That's what I would normally recommend to anyone who has the potential, and I'm not a doctor, but who has the potential to be a, Norwood 6 sometime, down the line. So I think his basic recommendation is very reasonable, especially given all he knows. And he's been around for over 30 years in this field.
Okay.
But I don't know if he's great at explaining things, and I don't know if he's going to get kind of like a chip on his shoulder if you ask him specific questions, and that may make you feel uncomfortable. And that's not a good approach either. So, my thing is, okay, you've already seen a doctor who's good at what he does. That's great. You're in a good position. You can have other consultations with other guys to see if you feel more comfortable with them as far as their personality and what they're willing to offer you as far as their time and full explanations. My advice is go to iahrs.org. You can have some consultations online through not on the website, but you can contact some of those doctors. There's another guy, again, not part of what we do, has had a lot of problems in the past, but he's in Cincinnati, Ohio. And he was one of the first guys who was an old-time strip guy, but converted a lot of his practice and really put a lot of effort into FUE. He does a lot of the work himself, and he might have
Father
to pay
of the gold suture.
Right, and he's had a lot of problems. Like we had to, based on one of his problems, he was once part of the IHRS, but we couldn't keep him on the IHRS based on a specific problem. Not that he screwed anybody up, but all I'm saying is a lot of these guys it is what it is, But he's very good at what he does, He has a good reputation. And he also may have the patience to sit down and explain your situation better to you. His name is Brad Wolf, and he's out of Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay.
Is he
I
still
appreciate
operating?
that.
I think he's still operating. He married a young chick and had a kid, so I think he has to still operate.
Well, then he has to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have me do
Yeah.
like that.
But this guy's seen a lot. He's seen it all. The entire evolution of FUE. He's been there from the beginning. One of the first to really embrace follicular unit transplantation using microscopes. Everyone's got their problems. I can't have him a part of the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons, but it doesn't mean he's not good at what he does.
Okay. I appreciate that. No, the last person was going to be on my list was I saw from what you guys were recommending us on your sites and things is Cooley. I'm not afraid to travel a little bit either, and he looked like he really pays a lot of attention to detail into what he's doing.
Then that's the guy to go to. If you're willing to do that,
He's wicked.
that's the guy. That's the guy you should see, in my opinion, given the choices. I mean, I'm not saying that's the guy you should have surgery with. Surgery is a last resort, but that's a guy who will give you the information you need to make a better informed decision.
All right. Well, I appreciate you guys for your time today. Thank you.
Yeah, and if you do have surgery, he's a great choice. All right, brother. Good luck.
Excellent.
Take care.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Who else would tell the truth about two guys who are real, in my opinion, assholes to them over the years and speak favorably about their surgical skills? I can't sleep at night if I don't tell people the truth. They're going in for surgery. So I got to tell them the truth. All right, I think these guys are jerk-offs, personally, and assholes, but they're good at what they do, and they're going to be honest with you. And if they're local, then why not?
Here's the way I look at it. We do know that they're jerk-offs today.
Yeah.
But do we know that they're actually I don't know. I've never looked at Haber enough. Like years ago, I was like, oh, yeah, look, it looks natural, looks good, basic, nothing bad, which is what you want.
Right.
I have no idea the kind of work he's doing now. I've never seen, that I can recall, a single FUE result that he's ever performed. And I didn't even know Brad Wolf was even working still. So I have zero clue about his. I know he used to be. He was just the president. He
was just the president of the ISHS, I think, 2 years ago.
Was it 2? Or I thought it was longer than that. I thought that was his swan song before he retired.
That's what he was gunning for a long time. That's a whole other story. Guys, well, hold on for a second. We'll take your calls.
I want to see this.
888-659-3727.
President 22, so 3 years ago.
Yeah.
No, you're right, 23. Yeah, so 2 years ago, you're right. Yeah.
I tend to be.
It seemed like 5 years ago.
I tend to be right. But, look, no, I haven't seen Bob Haber's work in a long time, but the truth is we're the clearinghouse for complaints. So if he's still performing as many surgeries as he used to, I would think that we would see complaints from Haber, and we're not. That's just the way that it is. I don't want to see complaints from Haber. But I got to tell you, I do not like the guy. I do not like that guy. I think he's done a lot of stuff behind the scenes that I think is it's unconscionable in my view.
Wait a minute. You don't like Bob Haber?
But that has nothing to do with his surgical skills or him being a good doctor.
Yeah.
Sometimes
true
assholes make good doctors.
And we know plenty of them.
It's just the way it is. So, I think if someone is in his neighborhood considering surgery, he's a great choice. I said it. Bothers me, but I said it. 888-659-3727. I wonder who's going to send him this clip. See who this is.
Exactly.
Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, it's Brian from LA. I had a completely different opening, but after I heard you talking about that doctor, I mean, it just kind of blew me away because, like, if this doesn't show people that you're a stand-up guy that is there for actually the benefit of the audience and anybody needing any sorts of hair transplant or any hair care at all, I mean, I don't know what is, because you sounded like me talking about my ex-girlfriend. Like, I mean, I hate when people ask me, why were you with her so long? She's really good at what she does, She was really good at what she does. I hate to say it, man. I hate to say it, but I'll get pissed off, and then she just do her thing, and I'd be like, yeah, exactly.
That's hilarious.
But I mean, really, honestly, like, that is an actual, like that, you impressed me again, you impressed me again, because, like, who does that? I don't know anybody who dislikes somebody and has I don't know if you have a personal problem with them or some, you don't have to tell us, but I mean,
the way that this will be spun is at the next meeting, he'll be going around, in the hallways of all these meetings. That's where the real discussions happen. And he'll be like, yeah, Kobren was on his radio show saying how bad he doesn't like me and that I'm an asshole. He won't talk about how the fact that Spencer turned around and said, but still, he's worth going to see because he does good work.
This guy has tried to, at least according to certain physicians that have spoken to me, this guy has tried to round up the troops, tried to say, we should all leave, or you should all leave, the IHRS because this, and this, and Kobren's embarrassing the field by basically because I'm out there telling the truth.
Yeah,
that is a threat to the entire field in my view, in this guy's head.
There's nothing like this out there. I don't know of any other advocate or person who's not actually a doctor, who's not actually that did what you've done, that's gone through the paces yourself, and then turned it around to make it something that we can all benefit from. And of course, you've got to make your living, but I mean, honestly, like, you're not part of their system, yet they still have to contend with you because you are telling the truth and because you aren't going to sell, snake oil or allow them to do malpractices without being called out. And I mean, I don't know of one single industry like this where this has happened. I mean, maybe there is, but it's just insane. And, kudos to you that you still have the balls and the respect to sit there and say, you know what, he's still going to do good for whoever would go to him, or at least he's been known to put out good work. So even though I think he has his issues and I don't like him, I still can recommend him. That's just insane, dude. That's, I don't know anybody in my personal life who's like that. You don't like somebody, you don't recommend them. No way, no how. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that is the way that the world works, But, it's interesting. Now, our current president, no matter how you feel about him, there was this, I think Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was there was some sort of a lawsuit happening between him and Trump, and they were still like playing golf, or at some point. This is before he was part of the administration. I guess RFK needed a plane or something, or needed a ride, and Trump offered him his plane, and people were like, "Isn't RFK suing you?" He's like, "Yeah, like it's just business." What are you going to do? I just kind of feel like, I mean, maybe that's a little different. Maybe that's not the greatest analogy in the world, but I just kind of feel in my world, I meet a lot of fucked up personalities, and you guys depend on me to help you make better informed decisions. What would it be? How would I, be seen? Or I guess how would I feel if I knew there was someone within driving distance of this kid who he already saw, who I knew would do a good job on him if I just didn't tell him the truth, just because I think this guy's a jerk? Mm-hmm. I'd feel horrible. So look, to me, dealing with these personalities and these assholes, it's just part of this business. And I can kind of separate it. And I don't let them live rent-free in my head. But I know I live rent-free in his head. I know that.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Well, it's just I was thinking about the technology that we have coming out with AI and all this stuff, and the quantum computing. I'm like, at some point they're going to lick this. I mean, I'm not going to provide false hope for anybody, and I'm not going to sit there and say hang in there. But I mean, like, I just logically think about it. Like, quantum computing can solve in 5 minutes something that would take thousands of years through, I don't know, advanced computation, which could go into multiverse. They say they're trying to like figure out how it works, even though we're using it. I'm like, all these things, cancer, everything.
But they're still not going to be able to make your dick bigger. Sorry, brother.
Damn it! You always one step ahead of me. It's okay, man. I'm just going to get a prosthetic. I'm going to turn the lights down real low, and I'm going to say, okay, here comes the real stuff, baby. I was just messing around earlier.
It's a whole Miss Saigon situation.
I don't know.
Good deal.
Have you seen anything that says? I mean,
Hold on for 1
family.
second. I know Joe's got to leave soon. How many more minutes do you have, Joe?
About 10 minutes.
Okay.
We're good.
I might, even though I'm hungry, I may flip over to Instagram. So if I do, you can call me there, brother. But go ahead.
All right, sounds good. I have father health issues that I've been taking care of him, so I can't check in as often as I'd like. But
I'm sorry to hear
has
that.
there been any? It's okay, man. I mean, we're all on our way out. I'll be the crazy guy in the corner. Nobody will I don't have any children, so nobody will even know.
So
who
we're
I
all
am.
just waiting for the
Yeah.
diagnosis. That's why I tell people not to worry so much.
Just hope your caretaker has big chi-chis.
Yeah, that's it.
That's all that makes my dad happy. He goes around, I push him around in the wheelchair. He goes, ooh, he tries to grab their butts and stuff. That's all that makes him happy.
That's what happens.
But anyways,
By the end, my dad was asking for BJ's. True story.
Oh my God, that's you might get it these days with these kids.
Yeah.
You never know. I mean, dude, I've heard worse. Trust me.
Talk about visiting angels. Anyway, go ahead.
Exactly right. The Howard Stern show a long time ago, Robin Quivers was a nurse or some sort of. She has been known to straddle a patient because he was saying he felt like less than a man. So to make him feel like a man, she straddled him and goes, "How do you feel now?"
Wow.
And I was like, so it does happen, but I mean, I don't know if it went farther than that. But
He was probably like, "I can't breathe now."
Probably. Those things are huge. Anyways, what I was going to ask is there any research into like duplicating and doing all that stuff, cloning hairs? I mean, I know there is, but is there any new developments? I haven't been able to look into that. That's something that
the one company that seemed like there was a real possibility went under this year, actually in 2024. That was I always want to call it Stenson. It's Stemson. But I tell you, to me it's the Adiron's curse, because Adirons or Bosley got involved with them, and they were going to be partnering with them, or they were going to be the first to utilize their technology. They made this big announcement, and then within a few months they went under. So It just seems like, and again, this is just my opinion, it just seems like any of these regenerative or these hair multiplication technologies that Adiron gets involved in, I can't speak, turns to shit. So
do you think it's the pharmaceutical thing where they don't want us to have a cure? Because the thing is they reanimated a pig's brain. Now, it was just the subconscious level, but I mean, they can clone animals, they can do all this stuff, but they're telling me the hair follicles can't be done or accepted into another host. I mean, it just seems
I think it's
have
more difficult to clone or multiply an actual organ than an entire body, a living creature, for some reason. So you see, otherwise they'd be cloning hearts on a regular. They're trying to make that happen, and they're trying to. I mean, they're now able to somehow remove the cells from, or the porcine cells from the kidneys of pigs, and then implant them into humans, and that seems to be working to some degree. So there's some cool technology happening, but just growing one organ has been a difficult problem. and especially an organ that has to regenerate, like a hair follicle. People don't really think about that. It's kind of like regenerating a liver or growing a liver. So but I do think with AI, quantum, computers, and all the stuff that's happening, we may get to a point where this is going to be reality. Do I think that it's being held back by these companies, like the pharmaceutical companies that don't want to find a cure? I don't. I really don't. As far as like hair multiplication or cloning, essentially you're just going to be, making more hair to be utilized in transplant surgery. So that's going to be, and that's going to be an ongoing process for physicians. You're going to have a lot more patients. So instead of physicians and companies worrying about patients coming back every couple of years for surgery, they're just going to have a lot more patients who are going to have successful surgeries. So they're going to be working on volume. So I don't think that's a problem. But as far as like real gene therapy or whatever it is, who knows? I don't know. What I'd like to do, and this is maybe it's a pipe dream, but I think it's possible, is at least during these next 4 years, it may be possible. If I can get involved in somehow to get some real research done that's not going to be funded by either the pharmaceutical companies or by the government, but something that's going to be completely independent, who knows? We may be able to find some sort of injectable gene therapy. I don't know. I mean, I'm at that point in my life where I'm thinking about this seriously now. Like, that could be my swan song.
Well, you'll be able, if you come up with something, you'll be the king of the world, because you'll be able to put a big tariff on it to other countries. And you have your hair farm, and every hair follicle has a 20 to 30% tariff on it.
Dude, are you kidding me? Joe's already thinking about the slave labor we can get involved with.
Can I be one of your slaves? I'll just want to be a part of the process.
I'm not thinking small beans of 25 or 30%. It's 100% tariff on every follicle, because people will pay for it.
Oh, 100%. 100%. No pun intended.
These are golden fibers. They never die and always regenerate. These are premium fibers.
Dude, speaking of golden fibers, I mean, they're now kind of reintroducing these biofibers, these fake hair fibers for eyebrow transplants, and they're doing this in different countries around the world again. It's insane, man. It's the same shit. That's it's like what we were dealing with 30 years ago is the exact same stuff that these young guys are dealing with now.
I think about those chia pets.
Yeah, it's just repackaged. I mean, how can anyone think, oh, we're going to insert these into your eyebrow and your body's not going to try to reject it? You're not going to have infections. It's not going to be a constant weeping wounds. And people are running to get this done.
They're desperate, man, because we're always producing. It's funny. You go through this stage where you're young and you're gullible and you believe in the snake oil and all. You just won $500,000. Give us your email and your phone, and you believe that stuff. Then you realize, okay, this stuff is fake, and you move on into this stage where you think, I can't be fooled anymore. But you can. I mean, I don't know what you think about the president in politics either, but you can say what people want to hear, and people want to be lied to. That's what it constantly keeps being thrown in my face. Like, you don't want to be critiqued on both sides. If you're Coke, everything Coke does is right. And if you're Pepsi, everything Pepsi does is right. And on the other side is completely 100% wrong, and we're completely 100% right, because they say what you want to hear. And the same thing happens with the hair industry. And it's like, I don't know if you've seen the show I Think You Should Leave. It's a really wacky comedy. It's about uncomfortable comedy where you don't admit you're wrong and it goes too far.
I haven't, but I've heard of it.
When you first watch,
yeah,
when you first watch it, you're like, who gave these people money to make this comedy? But if you get in the right mindset and you watch it, it's actually hilarious. But there's two prominent balding sketches, which are pretty long form, and they're genius. Like, one of them is like, there's a bald guy, he's acting like Curly from the Three Stooges, and the whole office is laughing. He's all... And he's all like, are you uncomfortable in your hair? And they're talking about your hairpiece, because this guy's comfortable in his own skin.
Right.
He's got bald. And now you want to go bald. He just go in reverse. He goes, but you can't go bald in one day. He goes, everybody would know. You were all the way bald yesterday. What the fuck? And so they show a little sketch, and then they're like, now with our new system, you can go bald in as little as 3 weeks. And he goes, every 7 hours, you change from one wig to a balding wig to a more balding wig to a complete, and then you're bald. It's really genius, actually, because it's kind of funny. If you want to get rid of your wig, you can't. That's where the idea comes
That's
from,
awesome.
right?
Yeah.
So, but then they're like, well, what if you don't got
titrating your hair?
He goes, what if? Yeah, exactly. I'll send you the sketch on Instagram later. He goes, but what if you don't got 3 weeks? Don't worry. With our new gorilla system, you'll be able to take it off in 1 day. And they have a fake gorilla comes to your party, rips off your hair, and you act like it's your actual real hair. You're like, oh, he took my real hair. The other sketch is about a guy finding a cure for baldness, and he's at a party. He goes, I take these pills and blah, blah, blah. And the other bald guy goes, really? He goes, yeah. And he goes, but don't tell whatever the guy's name is, like Jake. Jake's like this weird guy. He's balding and nobody likes him. Right. And then guy goes, what are you guys talking about? Are you guys talking about hair solutions? And he goes, no. He goes, don't tell him or I won't give you the cure. And it's pretty funny because it's like safeguarding the cure to baldness. They're both really funny, but it's like...
What do they call that? It's not called safeguarding. It's called something else.
Gatekeeping.
Yeah.
Gatekeeping.
Yeah.
Well, look, I know Joe's got to go. I'll tell you what. I mean, I don't know what you're going to do, but I could do another half an hour or so on Instagram for you guys if you want to go over there. My Instagram is @SpencerKobren. If you're not following me by now, follow me, and you'll see that I'm live. It'll probably take me about 10 minutes to set up, so I'm going to do that.
All right, I'll meet you there.
All right, brother. Thanks for the call. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye. All right, Joe. Nice talking to you again. Thanks for the info.
You too, buddy. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, you too. Bye. Bye.
All right, guys, follow Joe Tillman at Joe Tillman Official on Instagram. And for everybody else who wants everything else for free, yeah, we're the dummies. We're the dummies who give you everything for free and get shit on the internet.
Good stuff.
Until next time, be strong, God bless, and thank you guys so much for listening. Have a good night.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the programme, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Thank you. Good night.